Hi, I will be going over Chapter 1, Section 4 of my Intro to Human Anatomy and Physiology textbook. The goals of this section are to define homeostasis and explain its importance, and to define negative feedback and describe its role in maintaining homeostasis and normal body function. Homeostasis is the body's ability to maintain relatively stable internal conditions even though the outside world is continuously changing. Homeostasis remains in a dynamic state of equilibrium. The dynamic state of equilibrium is a balance in which internal conditions change and vary, but always within relatively narrow limits. All homeostatic control mechanisms have three components: the receptor, the control center, and the effector. The receptor is some type of sensor that monitors and responds to changes in the environment. The stimuli are the changes in the environment. The afferent pathway is the pathway in which the information flows from the receptor to the control center. The afferent pathway approaches the control center. The control center determines the level at which a variable is to be maintained, analyzes the information it receives, and then determines the appropriate response or course of action. The set point is the level at which a variable is to be maintained. The effector provides the means for the control center's response to the stimulus. The afferent pathway is the pathway in which information flows from the control center to the effector. The efferent info exits the control center. Results of response do feedback to the stimulus, either depressing it, which is negative, so the whole mechanism is off, or by enhancing it, which is positive, so the reaction continues at a faster rate. Negative feedback is when the net effort response to the stimulus is to shut off the original substance or reduce its intensity. It is the most common feedback. An example of negative feedback is a thermostat turning off when it reaches the temperature it was set to. The hypothalamus operates in a similar way to the thermostat to regulate body temperature. Positive feedback increases the original disturbance, stimulus, and pushes the variable further from its original value. It is a very rare feedback. Two examples of positive feedback are the birth of a baby and blood clotting. Homeostatic imbalance is when a disturbance in homeostasis occurs, usually causing disease. An example of homeostatic imbalance: as we age, our body organs become less efficient and less stable, placing us at increasing risk for illness and produce the changes associated with aging. So, this is how homeostasis varies. The first step of how homeostasis varies is a stimulus produces a change in a variable. The second step in how homeostasis varies is the receptor detects change. The third step in how homeostasis varies is the input. Info is sent along afferent pathway to the control center. The fourth step of variable in homeostasis is the output. Info is sent along the efferent pathway to the effector. And the last step of variable in homeostasis is the response of the effector feeding back to the stimulus and returning variable to homeostatic level. Variable in homeostasis is like a balance beam. If it is off, well, it's in imbalance. Input is the info traveling along the afferent pathway. Output is the info traveling along the efferent pathway. When the body demonstrates homeostasis, it does not mean that conditions in the body are unchanging. It means that the balance changes internally, but it's always kept within a very narrow and regulated range. It is kept in a dynamic state of equilibrium. Thirst is a part of a negative feedback system. Thirst prods us to drink fluids, the response, which in turn causes the thirst sensation to decrease and end. Were it a positive feedback mechanism, we would become even more thirsty. The stimulus for drinking would increase.